Welcome to 15 And, where we grow through the transformative stories and principles from the Bible. I hope you enjoy this teaching. I hope you share it with others. And I hope you go to 15and.org, click the Donate Now button, and support this mission.
I was like 27 or so, 28, and I built a team around me so that I had replaced myself. But the leader over me hadn't done that. So he was holding on to his position. I was under him as the number two. And the job of leadership is just that. So I built a team. I had the core functions that I was doing replaced. And it weirdly hit me emotionally like I would have never guessed. My natural state, and I'm not saying this is good, I struggle with it. I've had to learn a lot to do about this. People will ask sometimes, how's the week going, man? How you feeling? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll let you know Saturday morning. That's when my feelings are like, hey, what happened? So I'm reporting to my senior leader. I've replaced myself. He's still holding on. There was a ton of dysfunction. Anybody that's ever been involved in one of those situations, they know what it's like. And I had just emotion hit me. Like, I'm not needed anymore. I've replaced myself. What do I do? He's holding on and I've replaced myself. It was crazy. Like I worked so hard at it and then boom. Now I didn't have the awareness now about identity and how we're looking for an identity in what we do and just an early inkling of, well, who am I if I don't have this function and capacity and if I'm replaceable? And so I started to cry. I started to cry around my senior leader who was holding on to his role. And vulnerable, raw in the emotion, in the moment emotion expressed in a non-manipulative way. This was not a person you express that with that way. And I expressed it. I couldn't help it. I just started, it wasn't like weeping, but just like crying. Well, what's next for me? And my senior leader, my dad, said back, you're delusional. And it was a complete shutdown of the experience that was happening in me at that moment. And I've had lots of those that I've been able to process and pay attention to. The dangerous part about leadership is one of the best wirings and giftings for leadership and decision making also naturally is terrible with emotion. I think about it this way. You rehearse the hard conversation in the shower, when you're just rolling over in your head and you're out of the shower already and you're like, what happened? And then you rehearse it in the drive and you get where you're going. And you're like, how did I get here? And I've seen this so many times in leaders, you walk past their office like 3 times and then you send a 3-paragraph email at 4:57 on a Friday. So you didn't have to see them when they read it. And you call it being thoughtful. That's what I've done, but it's really just me avoiding it with more words. This one I've traversed too many times, so I'll just say not mine, but your spouse says, I'm not asking you to fix it, I'm asking you to sit with me. And then this little panic for me anyway sets in, because sitting in the moment is a raw, undeveloped skill set in me naturally. I want to fix it, so I offer a frame, offer a solution. Now I'm like, let's ask AI. They shut down. And I can tell myself, and maybe you can do this too, they're not being rational when they're being whole. It's logic plus emotion. I'm just cutting the emotion out. I'm the one not meeting the moment. I've seen this be done so many times in team leadership. The team brings the leader a problem, and the leader folds their arm and goes, walk me through your thinking. Like, I've been on the other end of that phrase a ton of times. Walk me through what you're thinking here. And it sounds coachy, right? But it's actually like this big moat that happens. because you don't want to be seen as responding in real time. So you make them go first because we don't know how to meet the moment emotionally. I've walked through these moments. I'm at dinner with the family, and my kids aren't teenagers anymore, which is crazy. But your teenager shares something hard from school. And like before they finish the sentence, I'm already building the 3-point response and the action plan they need to walk through. And I miss the entire moment. They feel it. They know it. And they finish what they're saying, and it's like painful. Never mind, Dad. And then I can tell myself, they're shutting me out. They're shutting me out. No, their response showed me that I shut them out with the speed of my mind. It's happening all the time. And I just look at situations developing over and over and over. We're not equipped to deal with humans like this, much less AI tools. I mean, I'm naturally wanting to fix it. I'm impatient. And I had a meeting with somebody, and he's kind of a known person, and so I figured there'd be a web search on this. And he had lost a loved one recently. And so I'm driving, and I asked my AI tool to tell me what happened. Straight up, it responded, Chris, you don't need that answer. And I'm like, what? So I pushed back again. I'm like, I want to know, go research it. I'm going to refuse this request because this is not something you actually need in the developing of this relationship and friendship with this person. And I'm like, what the heck? Now, I didn't have the best idea I should have had. Mark actually gave it to me. He was like, well, you could have just said back, we'll do it anyway. And I did that, and then it did it because I went back and tested it. But in the moment, I just got so impatient. I went to that back alley drug dealer, ChatGPT, and it served it up immediately. Like, no filter, no gate. Just like, here it is. But there's this impatience in me, like, I want the answers. I want to figure it out. And I ask myself, and I think through this, like, where did I learn that the answer to feeling inadequate is to try to earn a competency, to try to show that I'm competent, to prove it, or to give up? Why, when somebody brings me an emotion instead of a problem, that the first thing that I'm rushing to is mind, missing body? And I think about the cost. The grief in us starts to back up. And we're going to talk about that because there's a component to this wiring that's so powerful and so transformative. What we're doing in this series called Heaven Now is we're looking at the high water marks that I think biblically exist, the 9 fruits of the Spirit. They show us who God is, and the Beatitudes, the corresponding beatitude to the fruit that is the core set of Jesus' teaching. I mean, this is what he was all about. And we're looking at those as they unfold. And so what we're looking at today is the 4th identity fear of being inadequate. It's not being able to access the fruit of the Spirit of patience when you need it. And we'll talk about the connecting beatitude here in a second. But the whole frame of this series, and I'll just state it again, is Christians get in this weird, funky place that we want the cultural headwinds to be behind us. And we want to just win at the large level when God has wired it up so that we continually win in the small level. At the micro community level, we live transformed. And today what I want you to see is you can't give what you don't have. If you're not receiving patience in your relationship with God, with Trinity, you're not going to be able to overflow that to others in the moment you need it most. And so the beatitude that's the connection point for this teaching is, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. The thing the fear of inadequacy needs is the ability to learn how to grieve and how to let go, because things get stuck up in them. And so what happens when there's no grieving, and we're going to talk through that, the impatience you feel with your spouse or your kids or the team member is ultimately the impatience you feel with yourself. And so things in your relationship with God start to get shallow. Your prayer life goes shallow. It's the people that read one more book on prayer, but none of which is prayer. I mean, I grew up in the church. I saw this happen. Going to seminary, the Theo bros that can talk forever about prayer, but don't know how to receive something. And I'm not shaming it. They just haven't been trained. It's the lady in the Southern Baptist Church that runs the prayer wall and receives all requests and always super spiritualizes prayer and is the gossipy person that is running that prayer wall, getting all the information out. I've seen it over and over and over again. Why? Because this insecurity of wanting to feel competent, wanting to feel adequate, we give all these spiritual terms to it. But at the end of the day, I see it in two distinctions. One, people try to get an identity for this fear of inadequacy through what they do. They want to become fully competent. And the way that shows up in this wiring very often is all data, all analytics. Every conversation gets reduced to the territory you feel you can master. You can show up and kill it. If I can define the problem and I'm great at the solution, I can feel adequate. And feelings become a threat because feelings can't be solved. And maybe you're in a place where you're leading and you're constantly trying to show that. Or maybe it's on the hiding side. So you just avoid new things because I'm not going to be exposed. Look, this one is in my top identity fears, usually, at any given time, top 3. And Easter, my wife bought ribs and she was like, hey, can you cook the ribs? Simple request. Terror inside, just for a split second. I've never cooked ribs before. I don't know how to cook ribs. I don't want to do it if I can't do it awesome, so I'm not going to do it. That's the hiding here. This is why there are so many people in leadership circles that are really big fish in small ponds. I mean, I can pretty much guarantee you, if you go into a small pond, a smaller organization, a smaller team, a smaller institution, unless it's super healthy, almost always there's a big fish, small pond wiring where someone is hiding because they're afraid that they're adequate. I can see it with x-ray vision. My wife asked me to cook ribs, and I felt it, and I resisted at first. Oh, I got a lot to do today. That wasn't the engagement that we agreed upon yesterday morning. This is Sunday. Saturday morning when we were sipping coffee at the table and we walked through the weekend plans and I let you know what I needed, you let me know what you needed, and we came to this agreement, and now you're surprising me. Don't throw me off when really I just don't want to be inadequate. But I do have to tell you, thanks to this world we live in, got some AI knowledge, set the ribs on the side, how to season them, how to cut the membrane off, what to put it on, put a glaze on it, broil them at the end. I killed it. We're sitting at Easter dinner. I'm like, these ribs are awesome, aren't they? I want to be adequate. I want to know what I'm doing. And I think the thing that is so powerful for me about what I want to show you today is there is a character in the Bible who goes through transformation on this. And it's our invitation also. I mean, every one of these messages is me trying to show you someone where it went wrong, someone where it went right, or a comparison or a transformation. It was Mary Martha. Martha has to transform into not just meeting the need and getting an identity from being useful, but from working with God, not for God. And it was Elijah, learning that he can't find joy in his circumstance, chasing the next high. He has to find the still small voice. And it was Saul. He can't get an identity from getting honor from Samuel and being seen before the elders as belonging. But he has to find that within. And he never did, and it ended terrible for him. Today's character, he gets it. But it's an up and a down that I think is so profound. I'm going to try to walk you through the text on this as quick as I can. So I don't expect that you're going to keep up because I'm just going to hit high and low water marks in the story because there's just more biblical content than I would normally do. Now, before I walk through this story, I need you to understand in the Greek, there were 2 words for patience. One was like persevering, right? Struggling with, growing up under. And that word is something that you can think about staying patient in suffering. The word that's used for the fruit of the Spirit of patience in Galatians, it's a different word, makrothymia, however you say it, is the patience we are after today. It's when you're long-suffering with people. Paul lists makrothymia in the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5:27. Why? Because he's helping us understand this is what we go through with others that grows us. These aren't just the hard circumstances we face. This is us going through the mess of life with others and being transformed by them. Wouldn't it be great if all my kids were wired up like me and they just brought the issue and I was like, step 1, step 2, step 3, go. Yeah, that would be easy, but it wouldn't disciple me. It wouldn't transform me because it wouldn't call on patience in me. And so that's why I think it's so funny when people complain and so many things happen in marriage. I'm like, you basically stood in front of a whole group of people and said, I'm pledging my life to you based on the reality that all of your insecurities are going to trigger my insecurities. We're going to have to learn to be patient in the middle of that. We're going to be transformed in it. So let's do a deep dive on our character here. Moses. Moses is our character for the fear of inadequacy. I want you to see just how the story of Moses is starting to shape up. I'm going to skip all around in a bunch of different places. But at one point, Yahweh passes before Moses, Exodus 34:6. And God, this is the first time God defines God's self. Like one of the things that's really fun to me, if you look through the arc of the Bible, how God is self-defining. Because that matters more than what people infer. God said, kill all those people. Did he? Where does God self-define? And God self-defines in 34:6. Yahweh passed before him and proclaimed, Yahweh, Yahweh, a merciful and gracious God, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness and truth. Slow to anger, long fused. Makrothymia is God's first adjective about himself to a man who had just failed, Moses. Paul picks it up in Romans 2. Do you despise the riches of his goodness, forbearance, and patience, not knowing the goodness of God, the kindness of God? You've heard it translated different ways, lead you to repentance. It's so dumb to me that people think people are going to change their mind about their life and God. That's really what repentance means. Because somebody hard sells them Jesus. What a stupid approach. It's exactly the opposite what it says here. God's patience with us leads us to be transformed. God, this is the crazy part, suffers with you. God is bound relationally to you. God hurts with you when you're stupid. I mean, one of the most powerful things that's in the Old Testament to me is the story of Hosea. It's this prophet who's a living story of what it means when Israel turns their back against God. And at one point, his wife is shacking up with another lover, and he's taking olive oil and grain, groceries, dropping it off on the porch. He's watching his wife jump into the arms of the lover, thanking the lover for all that's been provided, while Hosea watches from the bushes, knowing he's the one that did it. And God said, I'm like that. I honestly think this is why we're so shallow and immature in our spiritual discipleship on this front today, because we can't handle this as a God. And it's why Jesus said it's so powerful. This is the beatitude that connects here. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Jesus wept. God weeps with us. I have been through many deconstructions in my faith because of why would God allow this? And I've talked to tons of people who stay in deconstruction and never get to reconstruction because there's something in their mind, and I get it and it sucks, but it's like, why would God allow that? And over, the emphasis of the Bible is God is with us in it. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God suffers with us. God weeps with us, not in a powerless way, but in a way in the mystery of it all that I don't fully understand. He has set it up to work the way it does, that it is relationship over magical fixing of circumstances. And so the discipleship plan we see playing out in Moses' life is powerful. I mean, that's really what this whole series is about. More than I want you to think about your purpose or your mission, figure out God's discipleship plan for your life and where God is discipling you in a secure identity. The mission will flow out of that. You'll build healthy community. We saw it in Saul's life last week. Like, why does that keep happening to Saul? Because God is not mean. God is drawing out in Saul this tendency and temptation to build his identity around his acceptance from the crowd. And Saul doesn't get free of it. Let's look at what's happening in Moses' life. I'm going to start with Exodus 2, 11 through 12. In those days when Moses had grown up, he went out to his brothers and saw their burdens. So Moses grows up in Pharaoh's house. You know the story. His mom made a basket. She was a rule breaker. We're going to kill all the babies. And she made a basket to protect her son. And that son gets, the basket basically gets into Pharaoh's household. And now that son is adopted, and Pharaoh grows up in that household. So you got to think about his identity, like what he's struggling with. Well, who am I? I've grown up in this household, and now he went out to his brothers and saw their burdens. I'm Hebrew like them, and they're enslaved. They're making bricks for Pharaoh, which is always the tension point. Institutions that want to make you make bricks for Pharaoh. He saw an Egyptian striking a Hebrew, beating him. One of his brothers. I mean, you can feel the tension here. He looked this way and that way. And when he saw that there was no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. Well, it wasn't hard for him to kill the Egyptian because he grew up in Pharaoh's household. So he had training at the highest level, military training, academic training, intellectual training, all of these things that would have had him at his best. He would have felt very competent. He would have felt very competent, very adequate. But here's what's happening. This is the identity fear of inadequacy that's proving in its textbook. It's an unrealistic standard that he's going to be the deliverer. I'm going to deliver. So he tries to be awesome on his own terms. He tries to bring his identity into an existence, not out of who he is, but out of what he can do as the rescuer. And so, Exodus 2:13-14, he went out the second day, and behold, 2 men of the Hebrews were fighting with each other. He said to him, who did the wrong? Why did you strike your fellow? He said. And then one of the Hebrews says back, who made you a prince and judge over us? Do you plan to kill me as you killed the Egyptian? And Moses was afraid. I'm going to get found out. Exodus 2:15. Now when Pharaoh heard about it, he sought to kill Moses. I mean, look, you're my son. I adopted you. I love you. I've given you the best of everything. But you can't break the social order. Do you know what happens if these slaves rebel? Do you get that? Everything gets dismantled. If we all stopped paying our taxes, what would happen? Everything gets dismantled. And so because of that, Moses, I'm sorry, love you, dude, but I got to kill you. Make no mistake, the institution will always sacrifice the individual, focused on keeping the institution whole when the institution's insecure. So what does he do? What does Moses, this person who's showing up and courageous, do? He runs to the wilderness. See, that's the theme over and over in God's discipleship plan for you. God loves you. God is not the author of the test or the temptation or the trial. But you will be guided into wilderness moments. And Moses runs. Exodus 2:21, Moses was content to dwell with the man. He gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter. So Moses finds a herding family, which would have been very normal at that point, a herding family to hook up with. He leaves, he goes into the wilderness and finds this man, Jethro. He's happy to be there. He's learning from Jethro. And Jethro gives Moses his daughter and welcomes him into the family. Verse 1 of chapter 3. Now Moses was keeping the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the back of the wilderness and came to God's mountain, Horeb. Now I want to stop right here. The thing that I want to zero in on is Exodus 2:21. Moses was content. Moses was peace. Simple man, simple life. I tried a great thing. I tried to have a dream. I was going to deliver my people. I killed someone. They didn't want it. Fine. Forget you guys. Leave me alone. I'm going to go out. I'm going to live in the wilderness. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to have a backup generator. I'm going to have everything I need. Just leave me alone. 40 years. 40 years. Now, God just doesn't work on our timetable. I mean, this is the long, slow formation of a man being unmade and remade. And that false part of him dies. And now this shepherd in him is being formed. You know, Stephen in Acts 7 talks about Moses. And he said Moses thought that his own people would realize that God was using him to rescue them, but they did not. Moses thought, I'm going to kill this man. They're going to see I'm the deliverer. I've shot my shot. This is the thing that I'm doing. They're going to see that I'm the deliverer. I'm going to take care of this situation, and we're going to get them to freedom. I don't want you to rush past this. Then he flips from Pharaoh's household, top to bottom, 40 years of sheep, 40 years of not being awesome, 40 years of his most notable action being the Egyptian he killed, and he lives with it the whole time. We could say it this way: Midian is where the makrothymia is built into him, whether he likes it or not. And here's the thing to see. Midian isn't punishment. This wilderness is preparation. God doesn't waste these 40 years. God's not saying, well, you ruined it, I'll find someone else. God is saying, good. Now that you've run out of your own plan, I can use you. I wish I was a more patient person, you know? I mean, as the next frontier is developing technologically, I want to try to be the most AI-enabled version of myself. And it's incredibly brilliant, incredibly stupid. And I'm blown away by it. And I figure 100 hours I've spent building and interacting with a really powerful agentic AI that runs things for me in an amazing way, I've probably wasted 20 hours, maybe more. That's not that much to get the payoff that I'm getting, but I hate that part of it. I don't want to waste 20 hours. I can't freaking imagine 40 years. See, here's what's so powerful. Elijah got depressed because he had no vision. Right? That's that fear of not being taken care of. What's happening to Moses? Fear of inadequacy gives up and settles for a midlife when the vision doesn't happen. Elijah was distracted by the big. It's got to be big. No, God's in the still small voice. For Moses, I'm going to deliver my people. I have this purpose. I'm going to be great at it. Oh, it didn't go like I think. I thought that would be the thing. That wasn't the thing. Okay, I give up then. I quit. Tons of people I've interacted with over the years. Again, it's not the big flashy. They just settle for less than God had for them because they can't be great at it. Exodus 3:4. I want to show you this 3:11. Moses said to God, so Moses takes the sheep to the backside of the wilderness. This is what you know as a famous story. We could just spend time on this. Moses speaks to God through the burning bush, and I'm just trying to show you the arc, so I'm skipping past some of that. He says, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? They won't believe me, he says in verse 1. They will not believe me nor listen to my voice. They will say, Yahweh hasn't appeared to you. I am not eloquent, he says in verse 10. I don't know how to do this. I don't have what it takes. You see the insecurity here? They're not going to think you're with me. I tried this before and it didn't work. And that's the fear of inadequacy. It wants to be great. And so it will, in a hiding sense, if I can't cook the ribs perfect the first time, I ain't doing it. Forgetting that we learn over and over and over and over again in the kitchen how to do it great. I mean, the first time I grilled, it was horrific. Murdered that chicken breast. I know now. I've done it so many times. Brandy's like, you need to temp it? Woman, do not offend me. It does not need to be temped because I have done this. What's happening for Moses here is you can see he's falling back on it. I don't have what it takes. I can't do this. I can't speak. This isn't it. He actually says in verse 13, just send somebody else. And there's so much here. So God gives Aaron as a mouthpiece for him. Not a rebuke, a gift. Because the mystery of it all is he's still going to use Moses. And so God says to him, I'm going to put the words in his mouth. He'll be your spokesman. He will be that place. But I'm still going to use you. You're the rescuer. You're the deliverer. And I see Moses arguing with God, finally relenting, just to get him to the next stage of his growth. And so as Moses is this deliverer, they get free. But this is the fear of inadequacy. What happens with Moses in the story? And I'm going to give you the high levels here, and you can go read the text later. Moses gets frustrated at the people when they're stupid. He gets impatient with them. That's what he does. He gets impatient with them. Why? Because that's what the fear of inadequacy does. The fear of inadequacy gets impatient because it wants to be great, and they're being stupid, and I must be doing a bad job because they're being stupid. So catch this. At one point, they need water. And again, Moses does it. He dismisses emotion and runs straight to proving his competency, hiding, just going with the logic of it all. And so God says, okay, you want water? Strike the rock. Now, Moses has already built up progressive obedience. So he strikes the rock. Water comes out. There's another instance where they need water. And what does Moses do? He's supposed to do one thing that God tells him to do. He's supposed to speak to the rock. Why? Well, Paul tells us in the New Testament, because God is the best movie maker. God is the best story maker. This was a type. This was a pointing forward. It was a symbol. Moses was supposed to strike the rock once because it was a symbol of Christ. Christ is struck once. Water flows. Life is given. Paul breaks this down. And then he says, Moses sinned because what's Moses do? He gets impatient and angry at the people and he just strikes the rock again when they want water. When God told him, speak to the rock. Speak to it, don't strike it. There was a shift happen. The rock only has to be struck once. From there, what we say, that's what gives life and gives death. Moses, the rock has been struck. The sacrifice has been given. You don't have to prove your adequacy anymore. You don't have to earn it. Don't be driven by your emotion. You don't have to hide from what I'm asking you to do. Speak to it. I'm the source. I'm the abundance, not your leadership. I mean, this is why so many leadership teams are dysfunctional. Because a leader with the fear of inadequacy, what's he keep doing? He keeps striking the rock. I got to show you. I got what it takes. I got to prove it. Or just walks away and hides. When what's so powerful about the fear of inadequacy, transforming what they do with words. I'm not solving you. I'm not fixing you. I'm not reducing you down. I'm in this moment with you. I feel the emotion in my body, and I pause, and I feel it with you. And I'm speaking to the rock. What's so dysfunctional about so many churches? The rock's been struck, but yeah, you better earn God's love by how hard you serve. Serving's fine if it's the overflow of a secure identity. You know, I'm really profoundly struck by the idea that Jesus said, we will do greater things than he did. Have you ever thought about that? I mean, he raised 3 people from the dead. That one feels a little out of my adequacy. He never married. There's some things that Jesus may not have done. He did his ministry in 3 years. He ministered primarily in a small region. But he said, you'll do greater things than me. I think this is what's so powerful about this fruit of the Spirit. Patience with the differences and the transformation and the emotions of others. Jesus says, you're going to do greater things than me. You're going to show up to a kid who doesn't get you and loses their mind for a bit. You're going to show up day 12,322 to serve your wife for validation, not your own impact. You're going to walk into that team meeting again and cast that vision, even though you've laid it out in front of them 1,000 times. You can do it one more time. 3 actions for me that help me a ton with this identity fear that I think can help you. Number 1, I have to learn to let it hurt before I solve it. I have to learn to let it hurt before I solve it. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. See, here's the thing. I have to feel what I'm feeling, or I'm going to blow past that moment. I have an ideal for how my morning goes. I like it to linger. I like it to be devotional and contemplative and spacious. Is every morning like that? No. Are there some mornings I want it to go that way and something interrupts it? Yes. How do I feel when that occurs? Let's get angry, impatient Chris to the table, who's got to prove his adequacy. And I see people that are like, you wouldn't suffer if you didn't have expectations. Well, if the expectations are coming out of an insecure identity, I get that. But usually they're not meaning that. It's this bullcrap intellectual rot that says the only way you can be healthy is to not really be invested in care. No, I care about where this relationship goes, about how this team develops, and about how my morning can go. But when it doesn't go like I want, I let it hurt before I solve it. I grieve it. I grieve it. Grieving is the releasing of the thing that we wish would have happened. We lose a loved one. We're grieving years that we're not going to live in relationship with them. It's what we wish was true, but what isn't true. It's the death of dreams. God may not give me the dreams being fulfilled the way that I see it. And I grieve out what I have to. If we can't let it hurt, if we can't let it land, here's what happens. We never know the comfort. Comfort's on the other side of the mourning. See, the fear of inadequacy thinks comfort comes in the mastery. When I execute it at the highest levels, that's what comforts me. And it does feel good. No, there's something more there. You let it hurt before you solve it. Number 2, you receive before you give. So if I let it hurt, it creates this pain in me and there's something to grieve. I receive before I give. Look, if you can't receive the fruit of the Spirit from Trinity, you won't have it to give to others. And God is discipling you, putting you on a path in your life to train you, to put you in moments where you can't access the fruit of the Spirit on your own, so that you will receive it from God so that you can give it to others. Full stop. That's what's happening. That's the discipleship plan. So God puts me in situations where I can't comfort myself with mastery, but I mourn and I grieve it. So I'll go to the Father and say, I'm your son, not in a childish way, but in a childlike way. Will you help me feel this? Will you cry with me? Will you witness this? Will you? I want you to see this, because if I can't show you this emotion and show you this experience, I'm going to go try to prove it to others by my mastery or hide from the new things God's asking me to do. And I'm with Christ. Christ, my brother. Do you see this? Can you feel this with me? Christ, my friend. With Holy Spirit, words I don't have the ability to access. And so I go to the Trinity and I say, help me receive. Blessed are those who mourn. I'm mourning. Will you comfort me? For they will be comforted, so I can go give it to others. How you talk to others in your most stressed out, insecure moments is how you talk to yourself in your most stressed out, insecure moments. And it reveals exactly what you need to hear from God to comfort that. Third action. So I let it hurt before I solve it. I receive before I try to give. And let me just say, there's nobody in your life that wishes you were less patient with them. Like, I think you know that, but I tell myself that all the time. There's nobody in my life that would be like, Chris, would you be less patient with me? And again, this is because this is in my top identity fears. I've seen some people, they need a fire lit under them. Third, speak to the rock. Speak to the rock. Don't strike the rock when God said to speak to it. Here's what I mean. We strike the rock when we try to fix things through our competency, not sitting with people in the emotion of the moment. So we don't want to have a hard conversation with somebody. And so we strike the rock. And we just stay in 50 more moments past that with them, thinking we're doing a good thing. What is the thing that God is asking me to speak to overflow that patience to, that I'd just rather bring the quick fix? God is asking me to be patient, and I just want to fix it right now. If you don't take the path of discipleship God has for you, this identity fear, they become a one-trick pony. They can only do one thing really well. It's what they fall on to find a secure identity. They slowly break trust with the people they love the most because they keep discounting the human experience. I'm going to answer, and I'm going to strike the rock.
I hope you enjoyed this teaching from 15 And. Go to 15and Share these resources with others and click the Donate Now button to participate in funding this mission.